This is ABTV, Animal Bites Television.
There's no doubt that ever since I was young, I've absolutely loved pet shops, spending most of my youth basically going to every pet shop I possibly could. Well, now I'm in New Hampshire and I'm at Zoo Creatures, a really cool reptile shop. So let's go check this place out.
If I wanted to have employees and have a presence, I felt that I needed to have a retail presence too. So I could make animals, nice captive, healthy animals, have them where my customers can get to them and get, like they can buy the supplies and all different kind of stuff. So it's actually, in some ways, it's a buffer.
This is absolutely certainly the first time I've ever held a turkey. That's right, this little guy's name is Wart, and he's kind of the resident pet turkey that just gobbles around and chases people around. But actually, he doesn't chase people in a bad way. He seems to enjoy people, and I never really thought of a turkey as a pet, but after messing around with this guy, I tell you what, he's pretty cool. I think I might think about having a little pet turkey in my backyard, but Artemis probably won't like it that much. Look at how cute he is. One of the things that's really amazing about places like Zoo Creatures is the fact that they do all kinds of levels. They're not just selling animals, but they're also helping animals, and the fact that they'll do rescues, they're doing educational events. Like, take for instance this female Cuban rock iguana. She was an actual surrender. The rhino iguanas are typically really great animals as well, but every now and then when they get aggressive, they're really bad. Whereas the Cuban rock iguanas are a little more high energy sometimes, but they're oftentimes extremely good pets. But they do need a lot of room and they need a lot of care. So for someone that just wants one as a pet, they might not be able to keep it the way that it actually should be, and then it can end up at a place like Zoo Creatures. Fortunately, they're here to take care of them and then find a forever home for an amazing animal just like this.
You can't expect people to appreciate these animals and love these animals unless you show them kind of like the light and you do the lead-ins. So there's always new people coming into our industry, but the more you interact with them, like if I had 100 people and I never showed them how great snakes were, I don't think a lot of those would probably keep reptiles. But if I go over to those 100 people and I start showing stuff, I might be able to walk away with 23 of them.
This is a yellow anaconda. Now, when most people think of anacondas, they think of the largest snake in the world, but of course, the yellow anaconda is a subspecies of the green anaconda. And the green anaconda, although it's not the longest snake in the world, is certainly one of the heaviest bodied snakes in the world. Whereas the yellow anaconda stay much smaller. A male typically doesn't get much more than 6 or 7 feet long, and a female rarely exceeds about 10 feet. But they are still live bearers, just like the green anaconda, so they're really in the boa family, and they have really large babies. So an adult female yellow anaconda might have anywhere from 10 to 15 babies at the most, but they're going to come out really large. I mean, large enough to where they'll literally eat an adult mouse right out of the whack. And usually when they're babies, they are really cantankerous. I mean, they like to bite, but as you can see, when they get older, they become super docile. I tell you, yellow anacondas are really cool animals and oftentimes are misunderstood because people think that they're really huge. But if you want a cool snake that is a little more exotic, but not a 20-foot snake, a yellow anaconda is probably a pretty cool option.
Every day there's more of us and there's less of our natural world, so I'm just trying to slow that down. So when you have a retail situation, you get to intermingle that with some of the things that are important to you, and teaching people good ways and bad ways.
This is a painted agama. It's a cool little agama lizard that you're not going to see in too many pet shops, but a lot of people are starting to enjoy these as an alternative to, say, a bearded dragon, because bearded dragons, although really great pets, they can stay a little bit larger than what some people want. So these painted agamas are not only really gorgeous, but they are also kind of like an apartment-sized bearded dragon. So if you want a little bit of a smaller tank, it's a great option. And they're now being captive bred a little bit more frequently, which is really great. They're completely insectivores as well, as opposed to the bearded dragons that need some vegetation. Now, what's interesting about these guys is that when they get bigger, the males will get slightly brighter and a little bit prettier, and the females stay a little bit more drab. But there's another way to sex them as well. Most lizards have what they call femoral pores that are right down by the cloaca, but with the painted agama, believe it or not, those pores are right in the middle of their stomach. So once they get to this size, you can flip it over just really gently, and you can see if it doesn't have pores, which this one doesn't, means it's a female. So painted agama, it's a pretty cool pet lizard. Probably back in the 90s, a guy named Bert Langendorf really made this lizard extremely popular. Of course, it's the jewel lacerta. He was the first guy to commercially breed them in big volume. As a matter of fact, he had a whole compound that he built just to breed stuff like agamas and lacertas, which is pretty awesome. They're kind of like a miniature tegu with those big jaws and big head, but look at the color on them. I mean, they are absolutely gorgeous. The one thing that I love about lacertas is, believe it or not, these guys come in what they call a melanistic version, which is a recessive trait, which is jet solid black. I mean, that is a cool animal. So again, if you want a tegu, but you don't want a tegu, you want a miniature tegu, a jewel lacerta or lacerta of any kind is really cool. Simple, easy to care for, mainly insectivores, but they will eat a little vegetation. These guys are super cool.
We're always trying to correct and learn and improve what we do, but it's just pretty much it's a retail presence to some degree of some of the stuff that Nerd does.
Take a look at these monkeys here. Of course, these are veiled chameleons or Colobtratus. They come from the Yemen area, but these aren't just normal veiled chameleons. These are what they call translucent, which is a recessive mutation. And of course, this guy's just maybe, 5, 6 months old, and this is an adult male right here. Now, the translucent gene is what makes that white and sometimes black marking, typically on the legs, but every now and then you see it in the face and even on the body. So it's kind of cool to see a chameleon that actually has a color mutation or a cool paint job. What's cool about zoo creatures is that you see animals that you don't typically see in very many other pet shops. What you have to remember about a pet shop like this is that it really is like the window into a world of reptiles for most people, right? So like, yeah, sure, I have a big collection, but hundreds and even thousands of people come through this store every single year and get their first experience with awesome reptiles. And then they may learn something down the road and become reptile lovers. That's why I love places like this. But what's really cool is that you can walk into a place like this and see something like an Aru green tree python. That's not something you're gonna find at the local PetSmart or Petco by any chance, but the Aru green tree pythons are, of course, an Indonesian green tree python. Now, they will range into Australia as well, but these guys are the Indo animals. What's interesting is that there's kind of a parallel evolution between these guys and the emerald tree boas, but there's a big difference. These guys have eggs, and of course, the emeralds have live babies. Now, these aren't really handling animals by any stretch. This one's acting really calm, but typically they're just a really good display animal. Set up a really cool vivarium with a branch. They're gonna hang out up there. They're gonna probably hardly ever move, but they're gonna look really awesome in your living room. This is one of the coolest milk snakes on the planet by far. I used to work with them, and unfortunately, my female got egg-bound several years ago and passed away, and I have not been able to find a replacement female. Of course, this is a male or it'd be going home with me, but this guy is named Geronimo, and it's a gauge-eye or a black milk snake. So again, it's a Lamprepeltis triangulum gauge-eye. Now, interestingly enough, these guys are born red, black, and yellow, and every shed they get a little darker and a little darker, eventually turn jet black. Now, most people think the reason for this is that they're definitely a montane animal, and they stay up in areas that are pretty cool. So as they get older, they get darker so they can absorb more of the sun so that they can really thrive in those higher elevations. Either way, they're super cool, and you rarely ever see them. And one day, I have to find a female to replace for my male.
I think people are becoming so insulated from animals because everything can exist in a make-believe world on your phone and on the computer. And that really is discouraging because the more insulated you are, the more or less likely you are to care about a rainforest vanishing, a coral reef, pollution, and stuff like that, because it all can be replicated in make-believe land. And I'm still kind of stuck in reality. I care about these real things.
everyone knows that I've become a complete blue-tongued skink nut. And this is actually a really cool animal. Now, I don't work with a lot of the Indonesian blue-tongued skinks because my real passion is with the northern and eastern blue-tongued skinks, but this happens to be one of the gigas animals. Now, there's 3 Taliqua gigas subspecies. This happens to be one of them, and it's Chiensis, which is from an island called Key Island, of course. And it's kind of a more interesting animal in the sense that it's the only skink that really has that kind of greenish hue to them, but they're very polymorphic. You can have some that have reds, some tans, and of course something like this that has that little bit of greenish hue, but the care is pretty much exactly like any of the other skinkoides. And of course they have live young like any of the skinks as well. An animal like this is probably about a year old. It's going to get another 50% larger and can have up to 12 to 15 babies. Key Island skinks have just started coming back into the country over the last maybe 12 to 18 months because they hadn't been coming into the country for probably 10 or 12 years prior to that. So I got a little group because I thought they were really cool, and I'm really digging them. Probably the animal I get asked more than anything to highlight in the show would be boa constrictors. And the fact is, I've always loved boa constrictors, and since I was 17 years old, I've never not owned a boa constrictor. But everyone knows I kind of suck at breeding boa constrictors, so I don't have a big collection of them. So here you guys go. There's an aneurystic het for snow boa, which basically just means that the aneurystic is a recessive mutation that's lacking the red pigment. And of course, the het for snow means that it's het for albino. So basically, snow would be an albino aneurystic. Now, the aneurystic was really the second boa mutation that was really being bred pretty consistently right after the albinos. And of course, when Peter Call finally produced a snow boa several years later, it was really kind of revolutionary to see that type of mutation in boa constrictors. And that was during the era where boa constrictors were just exploding. I think the first snow boa sold for $15,000 or $20,000. Now they're about $300, but they're extremely cool. Although there are boas out there that are still very expensive. There you guys go. I hope you guys enjoyed the boa reference because I love them too, guys. So how many pet shops have you guys been to and seen an Amazon tree boa? Now that's a cool find for sure. And of course, the Amazon tree boas, although they are a pretty easy animal to take care of, they certainly totally key on movement and hand gestures. So again, these are more of a display animal, not so much an animal that you're going to want to handle much, because as you can see, they're a little bit crazy when it comes to that. But the truth is that they're relatively easy to read when you're messing with them. But when you start to play with fire, you end up getting bit, just like I just did there. This has just been an awesome time here at New England Reptile Distributors and Zoo Creatures. I wish I had a pet shop in my area like this. If you're ever in the New Hampshire area, you gotta come check these guys out for sure, because they have some amazing animals. And as always, guys, I was Facebooking and tweeting my way through things. So make sure to follow me over at SnakeBytesTV or on Instagram at SnakeBytes.tv. Until next week, you've been watching Snake Bites. Do me a favor, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button for not only Snake Bites, but other awesome animal videos. And if you want to watch more Snake Bites videos, go ahead and click the link right here and just watch away. This guy's name is Wart, and he's the resident pet turkey. That's right, he just kind of gobbles around over here. And we're gonna let him down before it gets too crazy. Poor little guy. Did you, am I out? Yeah, I'm totally out of, yeah.
Okay, the last thing I need to say is Brian Barczyk can't say my name. Kevin McCurry, what do you got, a friggin' marble in your mouth? Seriously, McCurley. So you have three Stooges, Curly, one of the funniest ones, Curly, and then you throw a little Mick in front of that and you friggin' got it. I'm just like repeating myself all the time. I have people in the background that are laughing because they already listened to this nonsense. I'd like to say that you're doing it on purpose, but you're not that smart, and clearly you're a little dumber than I like to admit. But it's McCurley, so I won't even talk about anything else but your enunciation of my last name.
Thank you, Kevin.
Bye.